Few dare trespass here. Those that do seek the glory of the hunt, to challenge themselves in a land like no other. But they never find glory, only death.
I'm not here for glory. I'm here for the mountain. For answers.
Then you must face the beast that guards it.
Greetings everyone, Russell here with an optional extra look at Horizon Zero Dawn: The Frozen Wilds, which is basically the only piece of DLC ever released for Horizon, and will ever be released for Horizon, as Guerrillas are likely to move on to working on the next game. For those who didn't play Horizon early in this year, this is an excellent game that one has a, I wouldn't say unexpected story, but a story that is unique in the sci-fi based genre, and an excellent character in Aloy, which is definitely one, I feel, a staple character of PlayStation going forward, and I very much expect it to be a key part of their successful brand marketing, as I really do think Aloy is an excellent character. And with this DLC, I just proved to me more of just how excellent this game actually is, as I'd forgotten how awesome so much of the ideas in this game was, especially the creatures and monsters you fight, and just how epic these clashes can be. But before I get into that, I want to talk about some of the quality of life improvements they just made with this DLC for the game. In particular, they've added an entire new tree called the Traveler Tree, which is basically just an addition on top of what you had previously in this game's skill tree. And that skill tree has heaps of improvements to basically just make Aloy more easier to navigate the environment and collect resources and better acquire abilities. So one, for example, allows her to mount out certain machines in this game, and now you can actually ride on these machines and pick up different resources as you kind of ride around the village. I still think it's not as great as I would have wanted, because one thing in particular, I wish when you picked up stuff you could just keep going. She always makes an animation to pick up stuff, so when you're on a mount, she kind of leans off and grabs something. When she's just running in general, she'll stop and pick up something. So it's one of those things that I wish, just so you could have the momentum of moving quick all the time, that is just tap a button, pick up instantly, without the animation. So even though that's very gamic or gamified as opposed to the logic of literally picking up something, I think it would have just helped to make the game run smoother and just less slowdown of, because often you are picking up a lot of stuff. Every time you kill a machine, you want to be picking up their goods, as you're constantly crafting your weapon, ammunition, and equipment, all that kind of stuff. So you want to be collecting stuff. It's pretty much essential. So I wish they just made that a little bit quicker. But they did make other things that are more useful, so now you can finally disassemble your gear. You used to have to go to a shop, which could be annoying because you would always fill up your inventory stock. It's just general RPG tropes where it's like, you just fill up your inventory, go to a shop and sell everything. Fortunately, now you can get an ability that allows you to disassemble your gear on the go, making it much more easy to drop those slots and collect heaps more stuff before you're forced to go and sell things. And as well, you're getting resources for it, so it's not just what used to be the case in just discarding gear. You're actually making a worthwhile investment in destroying them, as opposed to just simply chucking them away or being forced to go back to a location to get rid of them. Now, what's interesting about this DLC is the fact that I thought originally it was actually one set after the game's conclusion, as some of the promotional material seemed to imply that fact. But two, it was actually standalone. And it's not standalone, folks. It is actually, you do need to own the original game to play it. And what it really is actually just like unlocks a hidden part of the map that wasn't there before. So in this northern section, you essentially reveal suddenly this little location that is the Frozen Wilds. That's the new location. And it is just the new connection of side missions, so it doesn't come under your main mission section, and it doesn't suddenly even give you prompts. Like when I went in, I was surprised there wasn't just like a suddenly, oh, you can go to this location now and put it on the map. It's just like, oh, where's the Frozen Wilds? Go on map. Oh, okay, there's this whole north section that wasn't there before. Travel up there and start this new location. And honestly, this is the location where they're like, let's just utilize all the graphical potential we could possibly can with this game, because it's probably one of the best frozen tundras I've ever seen. The they've got so much impressive snow effects, and even the night and day contrast between the snow is super impressive. There's so many times where you've got wow moments just in the locations themselves. There was one point where I was at a lake and there's this huge glare effect on the ice. I'm like, what the hell's that? I'm like, oh, it's literally the sky breaking through. So there's excellent graphics, especially if you're rocking PlayStation 4 Pro with the 4K HDR enhancements. They definitely pick, in my opinion, what HDR like pops the most, and that's like fluorescent light effects. So there's a lot of this bloom things, light lanterns all over the place, and they look really good in with HDR. So I definitely see them like targeting those effects specifically, which is great because it makes the PS4 Pro feel more worthwhile overall, which is great. Now, the other thing I don't really want to touch on too much is the story significance of why she's going here. In general, it does fit into any point in the story, kind of. I feel like it makes more sense that you would do it after you've won the game. I think it's story-wise, it's probably supposed to connect up very close to the end of the game, but it doesn't have to be after you've won the game, because it's one of those ones where you win the game and then it's kind of sets before time, so the conclusion doesn't happen. But some of the significance of the location fits into potential characters you meet later in the game. Also, they level cap it at 30, so unless you're playing on the easiest difficulty, because let's get straight, Horizon can be quite difficult in general, so you definitely want to hit be level 30. I, for example, had already done everything in Horizon, so I was level 50 walking into it, basically. So it pretty much meant I had all the upgrades you could possibly have, and I actually had spare skill points to go straight into upgrading the skill tree to get some of those new abilities, which is great. But in general, yeah, I definitely wouldn't consider going to the Frozen Wilds unless you have won the story or gotten very late game at the very least, just because of difficulty of the location. Because when we're talking difficulty, there is some tough new machines in this area. Basically, there's two really key ones, plus one that has just a new kind of side mission mechanic on the top. So I'll talk about the side mission one first. So there's these new corruptors, which basically are these claw tentacle things popping out of the ground, and they kind of spew this purple toxin effect or shield around them that, one, heals all the machines in the area, and secondly, basically cancels out some of your abilities. So you lose these shield upgrade you get later in the game. And basically, you want to prioritize taking that thing down, either by destroying it, so there's like this little exposed point on its back, or you can stealth in, override it. That's, to me, made more sense most of the time, as often the machines were very difficult to deal with if you didn't stealth it in. So often I'd be sneaking in, overriding those corruptors. They send off a stun spark that takes out all the machines in the area for a brief period of time, and then they aren't a problem. The actual corruptor stops doing anything after that point. So you can use it to stun them, help you out, kill those machines, and you don't have to worry about them constantly healing them up or protecting them or even making you weaker. So those were interesting kind of divergence, something new. They also have kind of moving from continuing from the main game, like little collectibles to find, use them to get better upgrades, that kind of thing. But more that's just typical RPG, exploring around the world, finding different things. They tie them kind of into the story, but they're mostly just, here's collectibles to find, here's a resource, a new currency that can be used to purchase better weapons in this area. And continuing on what I kind of said with the level 30, the weapons in this area are basically the strongest you can get in the game, so it makes sense that you'll be playing this late game. Not excessively strong or anything like that. Horizon most time doesn't really work that way. More of the time you're getting more slots, or even just the usefulness of the weapon itself, so what it can do. Like, one could be a tripcaster tying something down, another one could be a fire-based arrow or a frost-based arrow, or things that you can use to expose or utilize effectiveness against a machine's weakness attribute, that kind of thing. And these two new creatures definitely, well, one have weaknesses, of course, but are very ferocious in their structure and how they attack you. So Scorcher is the main one they've kind of shown off in their promotional stuff. Admittedly, they haven't shown much of the promotional stuff in general, but the Scorcher is essentially a wolf, I'd say. It's a dog creature, but a wolf kind of makes sense considering the snow location. And it is very relentless in attacks, and it's got these cool fire-based attacks. So it's like spewing fire everyone. It's doing these fire dashes across the the snow. It's got a good contrast for like the white snow, alloys freezing, and then you've got this fire-breathing dog that's just jumping around everywhere. Also, just running how hectic this game can be, where you're like constantly on your toes, you're crafting abilities, you're jumping around slow-mo, shooting them, trying to find the weak points. It's got this really cool gun you can shoot off this the Scorcher. That's it's like a mine launcher missile type thing. So it's shooting them all over the place. So it's a pain in the butt when it's basically shooting them around. You're trying to dodge these mines, and they blow up in your face constantly as you run around. And then once you get that thing off, you pick it up, and then you're shooting the mines and just obliterating almost everything but the Scorcher, just killing things left, right, and center. It's very cool feel as you're using the power this weapon has. The other one that is first time I think you see it is in a story mission. I wasn't quite sure. I think it's just how I did it. I counted it first in a story mission, but after that point I saw it a lot more in the wild. So I feel like after you do that mission, it appears more often. But it's called the Frost Claw, which is it's a bear. it's a bear. That's just what it is. And like its name, it's inspired by frost. So it's essentially a bear that's shooting at all these ice effects, which were quite strong in general. Like, it's got very obvious weak points, and so in a lot of ways I think the Scorcher is a lot faster, and so often it's harder to target, where the Frost Bear is slower, but it's a lot more powerful in its attacks. But you do have 3 very obvious exposed locations that you want to target as soon as possible to kind of take it out. So the Frost Bear, I definitely like the visual design of it. Creature they hadn't touched, it makes sense once again, the frozen tundra, like it just fits into the theme. And also something different from what the game had already done, because you do, of course, encounter machines you've already seen in the game before, but now they're in the snow. So that in turn adds a different visual element at the very least. Their tactics are about the same, although because of these the corruptors I mentioned being added in, that essentially make them overloadable in the sense of you can't take control of them. That's something that's like a key thing in Horizon. You're taking control of machines. You cannot do it with these new corruptors preventing it, or even the Frost Claw, like often being infected by it to begin with. So it's preventing you from doing a lot of that stuff. But it really makes you focus on the combat aspect, and it really pays off in that respect, and just how solid the game is in its combat sections. Other than that, there's a couple other things the game introduces you, other than, of course, just this new story component itself. You get a couple of new weapons, one of which is a personal favourite, was this lightning gun thing that's basically like a staff that shoots out these lightning bolts. Loved it, very powerful, very resourceful, wasteful though, in the sense of the ammunition takes a lot of resources to create, but the gun itself is like a very powerful and cool spectacle to watch when it's being used. We also have weapons that are kind of based off creatures that have already been in the game. So the Bellowbacks, for those who know, are basically these walking bird things that breathe fire or ice, and essentially you get a new weapon themed around that ability. So it's cool. You basically get a flamethrower and you get an ice flamethrower. I didn't like them as much, but it is cool they exist. And it's definitely useful against creatures that have that exploit. And I did find that most creatures in this area had those elemental exploits. If there was a shock, lack of resistance, or fire or ice, like they built them around kind of that idea, which is cool. Getting more use out of the elemental effects. That was kind of the main things they've added, though, and the useful new abilities. There are other kind of little things, like there's new creatures to kill, which is always useful. You know, you hunt these little creatures. There's now a goat that can give you more resources to upgrade these new ammunition packs and abilities and that kind of thing as something new. Additionally, because of the confinedness of the expansion, they try and give you a little bit of everything. So yes, the new creatures for the combat, the new corruptors to make it so you can't just overload things. You have to fight it in. There's a bandit camp. There's a new Hunter's Lodge challenges, which are basically like trials of do this in a certain amount of time, kill this many things, and they were certainly very challenging. But they also try to introduce a lot more platforming sections. Like, the game had plenty of platforming sections to begin, but this one, some of the mainline sections are like, this is a platforming section with puzzles thrown in. There weren't very many puzzles at all in the main game, so I think they tried to push a couple more. They're not the best puzzles in the world. Most of them are basically like, turn this thing into this agnel, and it's mostly dials and getting lines to go together. Or they're not the most complicated thing, but they diversify the gameplay a bit. So I don't mind them, and they're certainly not distracting in their utilization. So I didn't mind their addition. I don't think they were particularly that great, but I also think that the little diversions from just the relentlessness of taking on these creatures was worthwhile. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the DLC. More than worthwhile. Unfortunate that I don't know how long it's going to be until Horizon sequel. I very much expect there will be, how successful it's sold, and just how great Aloy is as a character and the universe they've built. Just the ideas behind it, I really enjoy. I think for people who played Horizon originally and didn't like the fact that it's so much of building up this religious aspect behind that they don't understand or comprehend what these machines are, and they're all building up different kind of cults based off what their understanding of these machines are. There's more of that. So if you did enjoy that in the original one, it could be disappointing on the story front, but I think the machines, well and truly, if you enjoyed that, it's more positive, and I definitely did. So I enjoyed every aspect of this DLC. Really reminded me how great this game was, and I simply wish there was a little bit more, but overall, definitely really good. So hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and also offer any feedback, if positive or negative, to try and give us ideas to how to improve this and make it better over time, as we're kind of trying to grow this channel, and we'd be interested in what your ideas are. But regardless, thanks very much for watching.